Have you ever wanted to be on your honeymoon forever? Well, Phoebe Hutchison says you can, and she's written a 12-step marriage survival guide to help you. Hi, Phoebe.
Hi, Suzie. How are you?
Good, thanks. Now, why do you think marriages, I mean, there's something like up to 60% of marriages end in divorce?
I think there's many reasons. I think a lot of people don't have a strategy, and that's what I've spent the last 3 years putting down in a fun cartoon-filled book for people that they can easily flick through.
What do you mean they don't have a strategy?
A strategy, many people are just going to work, ignoring each other, not spending the time daily talking, they're not having date nights, they're not communicating, they're not connecting, and they run into a lot of problems.
Do you think some people can meet each other too early and then you change as your life goes on?
No, I'd like to think that if you did continue to connect, then you would actually grow together. So I don't think it matters if you meet early. I think it's just that matter of keeping the connection by having the date nights, by doing the things together, and by keeping that closeness.
You're a brave girl to write a book about a marriage survival. Yours was struggling for a while, wasn't it?
It was struggling. 10 years ago, I was very lonely, very empty, and I suffered, and I feel that feeling for so many people, and that's why 3 years ago I started writing this, so that I can help people.
Well, how did you help yourself? How did you fix your marriage?
Well, I started studying positive thinking books, and I started studying couples who were happily married and trying to look at them and see what they do and how could I bring some of that into my marriage, and to try and put a whole strategy together for myself and some rules, which I did, and I stuck to that and actually typed up a few pages for friends just back in '99 and started sending that around, and then decided to turn it into a book.
But you say in your book that, you know, there were things about your husband that were really bugging you. They're not bugging you anymore?
No, it's really funny. No, back then I used to nag and complain, and I used to always see the negative, and I think that's the problem. And I talk about that in the book, that if you just focus on the good and start looking at all the great things about your partner, then all of a sudden you'll see so much more fantastic things about them. So
you've compromised?
Yeah, that's right. Looking at the positive things instead of always looking at the negative, because you get into that negative way of thinking, and all of a sudden all you can see is negative things about your partner, which is terribly destructive.
Would this be good for same-sex couples as well?
I think it'd be fantastic. I absolutely love the gay community, and I think Honeymooners Forever would be awesome for them.
Well, in your foreword you say how difficult it would be for two women to live together. You were saying how bitchy they are.
Very good.
Can you imagine two women living together forever? They'd get PMT together, they'd end up killing each other. Imagine the jealousy, the rivalry, the nasty comments, not to mention the fights over the mirror. The nagging would continue day and night.
Well, I'm saying that because I do believe that man and women are a beautiful union. But then, of course, man and man can be as well. But I do believe man and women, the union's all there. I think the difference is in the whole makeup.
Now, you say also in your book that you should never, ever have the long silent treatment.
Yep.
Now, I couldn't agree with you more, but what happens if you're on the receiving end of that, not the giving it?
If you're on the receiving...
The receiving end of silent treatment.
That's a good question. I haven't actually ever been asked that question. I don't know. Yeah, that would be terrible. That would be a nightmare.
I mean, obviously you're encouraging people not to do it, but what happens if you are actually in that position where you are on the receiving end?
Yeah, that's a very good question.
You also mentioned in your book that you should sleep in the same bed together.
You should, definitely, 100%. My grandma told me that years ago, and also do not go to bed on an argument, and I totally 100% believe in those. I've seen people that have moved out of the bedroom, slept on the couch. It just adds to the whole tension and the whole horribleness of an argument.
I must say, I know a lot of marriages who have survived because they do sleep in separate beds or separate rooms because of the snoring and amongst other things.
You certainly could there, but not in anger. You certainly wouldn't want to sleep in separate beds, because while you're laying there with your partner, you might turn around and want to cuddle them after a fight. It's a beautiful way.
Now, you interviewed a sex worker as well.
I did.
What did you find out?
I found out, strangely enough, that she believed that the reason that most men go to sex workers is because they're not getting the attention at home. They're not feeling like kings at home. And this is what this sex worker said to me. So that was one of the main reasons. They want to feel special. And so many men, and I really feel this sadness for so many men, they just get so neglected by their wives. And this can happen, which is a tragedy.
All right. Phoebe, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure's ours. And this is her book, Honeymooners Forever. Details are on our website.